Hello friends, it's Tanya with Sweet Tea Stampin' Spot, and I'm here for my Tuesday, January 25th, Let's Do Lunch. I hope you are having a good week so far. We are still thawing out here in Chesapeake, and actually the forecast for this weekend is calling for a little more snow as well, which is unusual. But I hope you have had a great week so far. Again, it's just Tuesday. Maybe you're watching a replay, though it could be Friday, who knows. But I would love to know that you're watching, so make sure you make a comment or give me a thumbs up or a heart or something. And of course, if you're watching a replay on YouTube, because I do upload these videos to YouTube now, of course, I'd love your feedback there. And of course, you could subscribe on YouTube and get notifications when I do go live. Well, when I post a video, not really go live, because I don't go live on YouTube, just on Facebook. But thank you for joining today for my Sweet Tea Stampin' Spot. I'm gonna get my computer in front of me, caught up with me, so that I can make sure I'm in the right spot, which it looks like I am, and let my group of Sweet Tea Stampers, that if they want to watch along with me, I will share it over there. So hopefully that all works real quick. Share it to my group, the Sweet Tea Stampers community. And if you're not part of that public group, that's open to anyone, not just demonstrators, the Sweet Tea Stampers community, feel free to request membership. It's just a group that is full of about 150 members, of some demonstrators, but a lot of just people that love Stampin' Up! or want to be associated with our group. And we share ideas there. I share information about events and promotions. So it's just a branch off of my business page here, Sweet Tea Stampin' Spot. So, all right, so I am going to flip the camera down in just a second here, and I'm just seeing if anyone's watching. But I am sharing some projects today that are not Valentine's. I know the last few things I've done have been hearts and the Sweet Talk Sweet products. Today I'm going to be sharing something new out of the mini catalog that I haven't really played with much, except for this particular set of stuff. And I'll give you a little background on that when I flip it over. Hi, Candy. How are you doing? Hopefully you're doing good. And so I'm going to be doing some projects. Like I said, I'm going to demonstrate one project, but then show you a couple of other projects that I've done with these supplies and one other thing. So I have like 4 cards to show you total, but I'm only going to like stamp and demonstrate one today on the Let's Do Lunch. So thank you for joining me, and I'm going to flip the phone down and just remind you of a couple things that are happening right now. Of course, it is the end of January, and yes, the screen went like a pink or red, depending on your screen, the way it looks. That's because I covered it with a Post-it note, and I'm adjusting my lighting so I can get some good lighting on my desktop. Give me just a second. And let's see what else I was going to say. Here we go. So hopefully I have us in screen. It looks like I have it mostly. Yep, so I want to remind you a couple things that are happening right now. So Celebration, of course, started January 4th, and we have just a little bit over a month left, the whole month of February. Celebration, of course, that means free products, right? So free products for purchases at the $50 and $100 levels. And of course, there's promotion as an exclusive set if you decide to host a party. You can host online or in person. I am doing in-person classes again. We had to pause that for a moment here in my household, but back to normal now. And this is the free stamp set you would get as a host of a $300 or more party. Of course, if you've got a huge wish list and want to spend $300 yourself, you would also qualify for this free host set with a $300 order, which is a big amount of money. Lastly, the join opportunity is an awesome one again during Celebration this year. And that is of course, your starter kit is $99 plus tax. Shipping is free, so you get that extra 10% off right off the bat. You get to choose $125 in any product that you want that's currently available. In addition, you get to choose 2 more stamp sets. As long as they're not host stamp sets or Celebration exclusive stamp sets. So any stamp sets out of the regular catalog or the January to June mini catalog, those can be added to your starter kit. So you'd get $125 in whatever product you want. It can include stamp sets, it can include bundles, it can include papers, whatever you want, for $99. And then you also get to choose 2 more stamp sets. So again, make sure those stamp sets are the highest price point for your extra freebies. So it's a really fun opportunity to join Stampin' Up! As a demonstrator. Of course, that doesn't mean you have to do parties or shows or get on Facebook Live. All it means is you get to get a discount. A lot of people just sign up to get the discount. And of course, it starts at 20% when you start as a demonstrator right off the bat. So your first order after your starter kit will be 20% off. And of course, that means if you do end up selling to other people, you're going to get that as income, 20% back to you. And of course, you could put that right back into Stampin' Supplies to support your little hobby, and build your supplies up if that's what you like to do. So if you have questions about any of the celebration offerings, please let me know. I'm happy to help. I do have a host code open through the end of the month, and you can order online right here at tanyareed.stampinup.net. You can also join my team, the Sweet Tea Stampers, and we're from the coast of California to the coast of Virginia and North Carolina as well. And we have a great team. We have about 45 of us total, and we're kind of all over the place. But we have a good time. We get together virtually. We get together on Zoom. We do weekly get-togethers usually on Wednesdays, but like tonight I have an event for some of those that qualified for my team called Better Your Best. So there's lots of things that we do as a team, but also each person just does their own crafting as well. So, but my host code is XDXESNQZ, and that is available for any orders through the month of January. And of course, don't forget that with your $50 or $100 orders, you're going to get to pick a celebration item of your choice. Okay, so for the mini catalog, I will leave this up here because I need to show it to you again. For the mini catalog, it began January 4th as well, but this does go through the whole month of June. So we have a good 5 months left with this catalog. And today I'm going to be sharing some products with you featured in the back part. Page 58 is kind of the introduction to this suite called Heart and Home. This suite is considered a mega suite. And the reason it's considered a mega suite, and again, you can see the price point is pretty large, so $155.75 to get the whole collection. And that, of course, would also qualify you for host benefits and for some celebration items. So if you like everything in this, then you can use that one number to get everything in this. Now, I'm not using everything in it today, but on the next page, page 59, you can see there's 2 stamp sets and 2 die sets, which is why I consider it a mega suite, is because there's double stamp sets and dies. Now, of course, you can get these individually or bundled together. You don't have to buy the whole thing. There's an embossing folder called Hive. I've used that one already. There's a fun ribbon. It's a denim ribbon. It's 3/8 inch thick. It's got a little bit of a shimmery sheen to it. Loving that. There's some matte dots. I'll be using those on my project today. And they're in classic colors of black, gray, vanilla, and white. And they're very much a matte finish. It might not be able to see that on the camera, but they definitely are a matte finish. There are some doilies, and I forgot to bring those over here, but there's 3 different color doilies. You get 30 total for $5, 10 of each of the 3 colors. So it's basic gray, cinnamon cider, and Misty Moonlight. There are Memories and More card packs and envelopes and note cards, and I've played with those a little bit already. And then there's this lovely pack of designer series paper, which if you haven't seen this yet, it's got some really classic prints to it, but then the flip side of everything is also like a whitewashed board, like a whitewash wood grain in different sizes and orientation. So it's a really nice paper, and I'll be using a little bit of that on my project today too. To see the stamp sets and dies up close, the next 2 pages feature each of the stamp sets and bundles. So the one I have is Blessings of Home, and that's what I'm going to be using today, and the die set. And then the other one's called Honeybee Home, which a lot of people do like the bees, and there are some featured on the designer series paper as well. But the Honeybee Home, and then there's a coordinating die set with that as well. I don't have that one. My friend Michelle does. That's why it's marked with an MB. We kind of share stuff all the time. whenever I have something, I mark it with a highlighter in my catalog. So a lovely suite of products. Like I said, I call it a mega suite because it does have the 2 stamp sets and die sets, and it's just a really large collection of products. And again, you can get all of this using the easy button, the Heart and Home Suite Collection, for $155.75. All right. Okay, so let's look at what we're doing. So a little bit of background. This stamp set and die set, Blessings of Home, was part of our offering as at one of our demonstrator events called On Stage, which was back in November. So as a demonstrator, we get the opportunity to do events with Stampin' Up! That are led by Stampin' Up! And back in November, we had a virtual one because we haven't had a real one in person in going on 2 years. So actually more than that probably, but we yeah, because the last one we had would have been in 2019, in November 2019. So it's been a little over 2 years since we've had an in-person event with Stampin' Up! But they were able to flip and pivot, of course, like everybody else, and do lots of virtual offerings for us. And what they do is they typically have these big events offered to us with the launch of each catalog. So these products were part of that on stage event. Think of it like as a convention, if you will. We had 2.5 days of online materials, and of course we actually get to watch them afterwards as well. For the most part, everything is recorded and you can watch at your convenience if it didn't fit your schedule exactly. But we had the opportunity to pre-order some of the products before the event. So I had these products since the beginning of November, end of October, and they were part of our make and takes as part of the event. So that's what I'm sharing with you today, is the make and takes from that event. So Blessings of Home is the stamp set. It's got some really nice images here of some florals. These, of course, can be stamped and just used as is, or you can color them in, of course, with a multitude of coloring options. And there's some really nice greetings. I really like, thank you for inspiring me. You are a real blessing to everyone around you. Have a perfect birthday. There's a good assortment of greetings in there. Now, these dies that go with this one, as you can see, this die here does fit this perfectly, and this die here does fit this one perfectly. And then you've got lots of extra pieces, and I'll show you some of that die cut in just a moment. So this is the one bundle for Blessings of Home stamps and dies. And I'm going to be using this large floral stamp here and Have a Perfect Birthday on my card. So let's get started. This is what it's going to look like. And again, these were shared with us as part of our make and takes. And I'm moving it around a bit because I don't know if you can tell, but this is actually shimmer paper here. These pieces that are stamped are on shimmery white paper, which we do sell. We still sell that. We've sold it for a long time, but sometimes people can't find it in the catalog. But if you look on the page in the main catalog that is specialty paper, that's where you'll find that specialty shimmery white paper. So this is the card in Garden Green, and that's what I'm going to be making today. And then I'll show you some other samples. So let me get started on that. So the base of the card is simply Garden Green, normal size, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And I will include all of the measurements and product information at the top of the video, including my ordering link if you're ready to order. So this is a piece of the paper from the Heart and Home Designer Series paper. And like I mentioned, there's prints, some very classic looking prints, and then on the flip side of each one is kind of a whitewashed wood grain print. So I've used this on a couple of cards as well. I'll show you that, one of those in a moment. But this is actually cut to 4 by 5 1/4. So this is going to cover up the full card. Now, of course, some people don't like to cover up the full card. They like a border. So you can always change that up if you prefer to do it 4 by 5 1/4. And that'll give you the garden green border around the back. So I'm just going to put this right down on my card front. And again, this was straight from Stampin' Up, this idea. It's also great that they share with us ideas right off the bat with new products. They do that with in lots of ways. They have lots of resources for us. So that's going to go on there. I'm just going to let it dry for a moment. Then I'm going to take a piece of the shimmery white cardstock. And again, I don't know if you can see the shimmer and shine on that in the camera, but there it is. And then we're going to take the large floral image from the Heart and Home, and I'm going to ink that up and stamp it in the Misty Moonlight color, which this color, of course, I really love with the denim ribbon. It really goes well together. So that's my choice of blue with this suite is the Misty Moonlight. I am going to ink this upside down because, of course, this is a very large stamp and there's a lot of detail to it. So I want to make sure I get good coverage, and this way I can see it pretty well. Make sure it gets all on all of those pieces of red rubber. Really inky. Just want to get that middle of that big flower. And then I'm going to stamp this directly on my piece of shimmery white. Now, it doesn't have to be lined up a certain way because we're going to cut this out with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine in just a moment in our dies. Sorry for the shaking, but I want to make sure I press firmly like that. And then I'm going to, while I have my ink out, now the shimmery white does take a little extra time to dry because it is a smoother surface. It's not as absorbent or porous, I guess, as like our regular cardstock. So give that a second to dry, but I'm going to show you something else. So I'm stamping Have a Perfect Birthday on a little teeny strip of the same shimmery white. There we go. And again, I'll set that to the side. So again, you can color this in various ways. I'm actually going to use my blender pens. So because I just stamped it, I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can pull ink from this, but it's not pulling enough. I'm not seeing enough color. It just depends on how light you want it. So if that's not enough, you can of course use your ink pad. And I still squeeze these together to get a little color palette. Of course, I didn't squeeze it hard enough. There we go, I didn't have it closed. I'll give myself a little palette there. And I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that color with the, now I did a little too much, but that's okay. We'll just kind of swirl that around a bit and fill in some of these flowers. Sorry for the shaking. And then, so that's one way you can color, is right with a blender pen, and that's just going to pick up color right off of your ink pad. You could also put this ink on a clear block and pick it up from that. So this is not as wet as a watercolor or watercolor painter would be. This is a lot less watery. So you have a little bit more control, but you also will get a darker bit going in there if you're not careful. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color here and there on some of these flowers. And I know this is the most fun, is to watch me color. I see a few more of you have joined, so thank you for watching. And again, if you're watching a replay, you can say hi as well. So I've got some flowers up in here on a little branch, and then I'm going to pull in some green to fill in some of these leaves. And I'm not coloring in every part of the flowers. I just want to touch some of the flowers and leave some white space, because like I said, this is shimmery white cardstock. So you want to leave some of that shimmery white showing on your project. And there are definitely parts here where I feel like I don't know if I'm coloring a leaf or a petal of a flower. So you just kind of have to play with it. And we're going to, of course, layer our greeting across there and a little bit of ribbon. So it'll all come together in a moment. So the on-stage thing that I was mentioning earlier, like I said, it's an exclusive event for demonstrators, and it's one of those extra perks we get as a demonstrator to gather. And again, we haven't been able to gather in person in a couple of years, but gather virtually at least. But I also do have gatherings with my team. And again, those that live locally to me, we gather when we can in person. And then I always offer virtual gatherings with my team. So it's really fun, and I don't know what I would do without my Sweet Tea stampers. So, all right, I think I'm just going to add a little bit right in the center of that. Let's see. So as that dries, it'll change a little bit. And then I'm going to, now the best thing about this is you can literally just get some scratch paper, and once it goes clear, you know you can switch colors. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of garden green just to touch on some of those leaves. So you could also color here with sponges, like your sponge daubers. You could color in with watercolor pencils and these blender pens, or using your watercolor brushes. You could use Stampin' blends, the alcohol markers. Now I did stamp this in Misty Moonlight, not a Memento black ink, but it should be okay because you're pretty much just adding in like the similar colors. So, and again, you can color as much or as little as you want. And again, I'm definitely leaving some white space. I'm not trying to color in every little nook and cranny, but I do want some of these green leaves poking out here. Let's see. All right. All right, I think that'll do it. I think I'm gonna grab this one right here, a little bit more green there. Okay, so I'm gonna give that a second to dry and I'll work on some other parts of my card. And again, it has a little bit of green on it, but I'm gonna just color it on some scrap paper until it goes clear, and then I know I'll be ready to use it on my next coloring task. So, all right. So I will cut that out in a moment. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, or I'm looking at my greeting and I want to add a little bit of this ribbon behind it. So I think this is about 3.5 inches. Yeah, it's about 3.5 inches long. So I'm going to cut my ribbon at about 4 inches just to give it a little bit extra on each side. And I'm just cutting it like that at an angle. And I need to adhere those pieces together. So I'm going to bring in my silicone mat because this is a really narrow piece of cardstock. And again, this is the shimmery white cardstock. And I'm just going to pick that up, but I'm using my silicone mat so I don't get sticky tape all over my work surface. And now that may even been a little bit too long. So I'm going to trim that up a little bit more. And then we'll adhere this just on top of the denim ribbon. Again, it itself has a little bit of shimmer to it, along with the shimmery white cardstock there. I'll put that to this up there. Now let's go ahead and cut this out. Now again, I'm going to just bring in my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine because it's super small and it will actually still fit this large stamp. So I'll grab my plates for this and my die out of the Flowers of Home dies. So it's this large one here. Of course, this all coordinates and can be purchased as a bundle, the stamps and the dies together. And you get the extra 10% off when you buy the stamps and dies together. All right. And that just lines up very nicely. Hopefully you can see that. And I could also put a piece of washi tape on here to hold it down, or a Post-it. But I think I'm good. So I'm going to just lay this on top. Crank it through. All right. Hopefully it didn't shift too much. Looks pretty good. And there we have our die cut piece. So no fussy cutting on this one. You get the opportunity to use the dies, which is awesome. And now we get to do our assembly of the rest of the card. So we're going to take our color piece that has been colored and add some dimensionals on the, on the back of that. And I'll add a good amount, probably 4 or 5, because it is such a large piece. All right. So just put these on the back of that and pop this up on the card front. And now the little piece that we have here, I'm going to add some dimensionals on the back of that as well. Again, I've used all of these dimensionals. I feel like every time I do a Facebook Live or a video, I am finishing up my dimensionals, which is good. Don't ever forget to use those little pieces. All right. So we're just going to pop that right across the front. And then the last thing on this one, we're going to add some of those matte dots. And I'm going to do the gray ones. So definitely using the Take Your Pick tool. We'll pick up a good number of them. And I just use the little putty end of my Take Your Pick tool to slide them right off of the sheet and right onto my project without having to fiddle with them on my fingers or dropping them. So there you go. That's the card, one of the ones they shared with us at our onstage virtual event. Let me show you a couple more. Again, featuring the Blessings of Home stamp set and coordinating die set. So this is the stamp set, and then the Flowers of Home dies are the ones that coordinate with it. So I will share with you a couple more projects with that. So that's the Have a Perfect Birthday. And then here's now these are 3 different size cards. So this one is We Can Do Anything Together. And this is using the cinnamon cider. There's another piece of the designer series paper back there. Some more elements of the die cut pieces with the fresh freesia, the garden green, and cinnamon cider. And again, it is on the shimmery white cardstock. So kind of a different take on it. And there's some stamping in the background there. And then thank you for inspiring me, which is one of my favorite sayings out of the set. Again, this is actually a little bit different size card than the original size card. And we're using some more of the designer series paper. And then the reverse side, see where we've stamped right on top of that wood grain in cinnamon cider and some of the elements there of the die cuts with cinnamon cider and fresh freesia. So those are 3 cards using the specific set, Blessings of Home. I did want to also show you a card that I did for a swap recently. And I took some of the elements of this suite. I used some of the designer series paper, I used some of the matte dots, and I used a doily and kind of went with that color scheme. But I actually used the stamp set, which this was one of the ones we got as part of our kit if you bought the swag box, because that's one of the options we get to get a swag box with our on stage at home events. And of course, when we get back to in-person ones, they always give you swag at those. But this is called In the Moment. So I used the little lady right here as part of my card for this next one I'm going to show you. And I also used on page, that's on page 57. And then on page 67, I used this stamp set called So Lucky for You. If you don't remember, 67 is also the place you'll find that supple shimmer specialty paper, which I used on some of my Valentine's project, but I used this stamp set, which is a negative image stamp set. The words are actually not the pieces that get stamped, it's all the parts around it. But here's my card for that. I did this one as a swap, like I said. And there's my lady there. It says, So Happy for You. And I did add some Wink of Stella all over the card. I kind of flicked it all over the card. So I don't know if you can see that shimmer and shine. Maybe you can, hopefully. But I had fun coloring. I'm not a huge person that likes to color a lot, but I did do some coloring for a swap. So it was a lot of fun. So those are my samples that I wanted to share with you today, featuring some of the Heart and Home Suite products. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's projects. And don't forget that if you want to place an order and earn those celebration benefits, you have until the end of February, but my host code for January will be ending on Monday. And you can find more details at tanyareed.stampinup.net. And again, thank you for joining me for Let's Do Lunch. If you're watching the replay or watching on the YouTube version, let me know. I'd love to see that you're watching, and let me know your feedback. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.